What a disaster. So guys, just to update you on what's been going on, I left that trailhead, stopped at a gas station on I-90 to fill gas. When I restarted, the car wouldn't start. Now I'm waiting for a tow. Alright folks, I did not need to get towed tonight. I actually saved my own ass because I rigged up this three-way switch that lets me send charge from my lithium battery to my car battery. I managed to revive it that way. I did call for a tow. After an hour, my roadside assistance through my insurance company was still processing my request. So yeah, that's not good. The more important thing is I have a parasitic draw on my car battery. I don't know if it's something I did, my DC to DC charger, or a failing alternator, or a failing starter solenoid. I don't know. I actually bought a battery monitor, a second one, specifically for my car battery. I never got around to installing it. When I get back to my home base, I'm going to install that damn thing. I need to know the state of charge of my car battery. I need to find this parasitic draw. Alright, I'll see you guys when I get back to my home base. So folks, I think I have a parasitic draw somewhere on my car's battery system. I'm trying to purge my car of all electrical gremlins. What I need to do is know if there is something drawing on my car battery when it's just parked. So, I am installing a Renogy battery monitor, just like the one I have on my house lithium battery. This one I'm going to connect to the Ford Transit's battery, which is underneath the driver's seat. I actually wrote out a little schematic there and pasted it on the side of the driver's seat. I'll show you guys where I'm installing it. So right here I have my customer connection point schematic. Hopefully the glare is not too bad. You see where I have the car battery. This little power connection is just so it monitors. It's just a little thin wire. It's how the car battery monitor itself gets power and measures the voltage drop. The actual shunt for the car battery goes on the ground connection. It's the first connection that comes out of the car battery. From there I go to a bus, and from here it goes to my AC to DC charger. It also goes to the car powertrain. I probably should have put in a branch for that. I think it's kind of self-implied. Anyway, that's my schematic. So accessing the Ford battery is kind of a pain in the you-know-what. There are just a couple of hex nuts or whatever they're called right here that you turn, and this gets this plastic lid off right here, this metal T-shaped thing. Underneath that, there's another plastic thing that you kind of have to take apart. Yeah, this thing is just so shoddily built. I'm kind of not happy about how Ford did this. But there you go. That's the car battery. This power connection is what connects to my AC charger, which is how I charge my battery well, not remotely, but through shore power. So as you can see, I've removed the car battery and the tub it sat in. This is what we have over here. Now, the battery monitor needs to go on the ground line that goes into the Ford battery. I had wanted to connect it to this wonky thing that Ford gives you, but there's just no way to take that apart. I've come to the realization what I have to do is cut into this wire, which I think is a 1-gauge wire, and the shunt is going to connect both ends of it. I hate to have to cut into the Ford parts, but that's what I have to do. The reason you need to remove that tub is because you want to access this wire here and cut these zip ties that are holding the black wire to the Ford. I'll show you if you can see from there. There's a zip tie right here. Need to cut that. If I can do it at this crazy wonky angle. Let's see. There we go. Finally cut that zip tie. Now I can get some slack on this power line. And now comes for the hard part. I have to cut this thing. Yeah, it scares me, but it's what you gotta do. So the shunt can only fit in this little cavity down here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is mark where I wanna cut the wire, which is gonna be right about there. Now, before you cut into your car's battery wire there, folks, make sure you have the right gauge of crimp connection. This is a 1/0 gauge in the Ford Transit. I got the right crimper here. Since I can't pull the whole wire out, I'm kind of locked into this tight space. I'm gonna try cutting it first using this heavy-duty bolt cutter. I also have a hacksaw if that doesn't work. And last but not least, I have a razor blade to splice the wire. Not the ideal situation, but not the most difficult thing in the world either. All right, here goes nothing. Oh man, this is tough. There we go. The deed has been done. Look at that. And it uses aluminum wire, which I expected. So I'm using aluminum crimp connectors. I've heard you shouldn't mix and match metals. I don't know how true that is. I'm not going to take the risk though. So now that I have a nice clean cut on the wire, I need to splice that rubber off so I can attach the crimp connector. I am just going over with a razor blade, very fine, smooth strokes, making sure I cut none of the metal in beneath. Oh man, where is it still connected? I'm gonna get this thing off if it kills me. There we go. Look at that, folks. A nice clean connection, and my crimp should go right over it. I think I might want to cut a little bit more rubber off, maybe about another 3/4 of a centimeter, but you get the idea. So I now have the wire bare. I have my heat shrink right here, which I'm going to put on the wire. The unfortunate reality of working in a tight space like this is I'm going to have to crimp right in here. I can't rip the whole wire out. I'm going to have to do my hammering. I need like a solid space to work on. So on the corner of the chair right here, there's a nice sturdy piece of metal. I'm going to do all my hammering against that. I did test it with a dummy crimp before I did all this. It more or less worked. I got a pretty good connection. So yeah, I'll show you guys the end result. So that crimp connection is super tight. I hammered the absolute heck out of it. Now I'm just gonna push this heat shrink over, and then I do not use one of those fancy schmancy blowguns. I just use a lighter. I found it's perfectly adequate, and will shrink that all around the wire. So one thing I've learned with these bigger wires is you really want to make sure you have the lug oriented properly in the way you want it to connect to the shunt. In other words, you don't want to have to like twist it this way or add any rotational force. So this ground connector connects to the battery like this. I want this facing down like that. So what I'm going to do is what I like to do is put it in place and then just use a piece of electrical tape just to hold it in that orientation while I do the rest of the crimping. So now I have the shunt installed. I'll give you guys a proper view. This is the OEM wire that comes out of the car. It goes into the side of the shunt that says, let's see, can you see it? P negative, which I guess means power or load or whatever. The side that connects to the battery over here, that goes to the B negative, and you can see the orientation. You want to maximize the metal connecting to the metal of the shunt. On top of that, your washer, lock washer, and nut. Make sure you have that lock washer in there. You don't want anything popping loose. Now, before I put the battery back, this shunt, for some reason, doesn't come with any container around it. So I might just put some electrical tape, cover up some of this exposed metal, just to be extra safe. So the hardest part of this job is finally done. Well, I still have to turn it on, make sure everything works. It might not. Now it's just a matter of putting back all this battery stuff. I noticed the container that Ford Transit gives you for the battery is spacious enough that you can fit a second battery in here just to double your capacitance. I might do that in a future project, but for now, I just want to get this tub back in. Yeah, this thing is more difficult to put in than it should be. You kind of have to use some force here. I don't know why Ford didn't design this better. Everything is just so kind of like cramped at the last minute. Man, I can't even get this back in. All right, the tub is in. Now to get the battery in. These things are so freaking heavy. Oh, here we go. Man, these things are so heavy. I hate these, what is it, lead acid? Just some dinosaur technology. Time to catch up with some lithium. Oh man. So I have the ground connection here and the shunt is in line in the ground connection. What I've had to do, guys, is run it around a big wire that wraps around the back of the battery because there's just enough of a cavity between the battery and the holster to run a wire. Then I need to run it up, snake it through this thing, through this hole that Ford gives you right there, and pop it out back there. The reason I need to do that is because I cannot snap the battery lid back on the entire thing if I have the wire just kind of running over the top of it. So the last thing I do before I put the lid on this project, literally and figuratively, is run a voltmeter across it. A fully charged battery should give out 12.6 volts. That's a fully charged AGM battery. And let's see what we got here. What does that say? 12.78. So this battery's fully charged. That makes no sense. All right, let's put the lid on this project. I am done with tinkering around with the guts of this thing. Let's see if the lid actually fits. I can't believe I crammed all these wires and a shunt down there. First is this plastic thing, which should go flat. I did carve out some notches for those batteries. Let's see. Yeah, that actually works out pretty well, I think. Alright. There we go. Did you guys hear that? It freaking snapped. That is so satisfying. Now for this part over here, this kind of pops here. This is very loosey-goosey. Ford kind of like threw this crap together at the last minute, if you want to know my opinion. Alright, I think that's pretty much as tight on as that thing goes. It just kind of sits like that. And then last but not least is this metal T-shaped thing, which kind of clamps the whole thing down. You want to make sure you catch the end like that. This grommet thing kind of goes into this slot like that. It sits down flat. It actually fits. I don't believe it. And then I want to use... Where are those things? Yeah, I need a better place. Here we go. These two little bolts here. One goes like this. Clamp that crap down. I'm trying not to swear on camera. Boom! Look at that. So the last thing I need to do, guys, was run the wire for the battery monitor. I use this little channel that's kind of underneath this plastic flap right here. Ran the wire up here, goes behind the dash cluster, pops out next to the steering wheel, and I just used some double-sided tape to put this on. You'll notice it's green. That's because it's getting power from the battery. That's how you know that I actually wired that thing right. So there you can see the battery monitor is freshly mounted. I used some double-sided tape just to glue it from here. The wire runs behind and underneath. It's hidden. So as you can see right now, it says the car battery's charged 100%. 12.4 volts is, well, that's not really 100%. I'd say that's more like 70 or 80%. I might need to calibrate this a little bit. Some of the car's lights are on because I just opened the door, and this says it's drawing 2.7 amps for all the Ford lights that are on right now. That kind of makes sense. Now I'm gonna start the car and then we'll see what happens. All right, so let's take a look. Look at that, it jumps to, sorry for the glare, jumps to about 25 amps being used. That's the whole Ford powertrain. I'm not sure if that's normal or not. 13.8 volts tells me that the alternator seems to be working. The alternator should jump the voltage from around 12.5 to 13.5. So, I don't know, the battery monitor is doing what it told me to do, doing what I expected it to do. That tells me the battery monitor is doing what I wanted it to do, telling me the draw of the Ford's powertrain. I'm gonna see if I can do some research and figure out what is supposed to be drawn through the Ford, if 25 amps sounds more or less accurate. I think it is. But check this out, folks. Charging system service soon. That's new. Yeah, I'm not sure what that warning means. I have gone over my wiring with a fine-tooth comb. Everything is to spec. I think Ford just somehow detected that I disconnected the battery and reconnected it. I don't know. Or it could be something with the alternator. Maybe that's the gremlin. I think I've ruled out any of my connections being the problem here. So I am going to take it to Ford on Tuesday in a couple of days. I'll have them look at that service light, go over all my connections. Hopefully we can figure it out. But I am happy that the battery monitor is working. I just need to calibrate it. Let's see if I can do that. So I'm driving right now. The alternator should be charging my car battery. So there should be a positive draw on that monitor. Let's take a look. See that I'm driving. Yep, plus 4 or 5 amps. That means the alternator is working. It's charging my car battery. There's no other source of charge right now. I don't have solar panels. Yeah, I don't know, folks. My alternator seems to be working, but that Ford service light still is not going away. I think I'm just gonna have Ford look at this point. There's nothing more I can do. So it's been all afternoon. I've let the car sit for a while. I haven't found any parasitic draw. There is like a steady 2.5 amp draw after I open the door and the car stays in some kind of standby mode for a while. But then after that powers off, there's like no parasitic draw that I can find. I did rule out my connection points being any parasitic draw, anything to do with killing the car battery. I did find that the node on the car battery on the positive side, the clamp, was very loose. That may have been the problem causing my car to die on the road. But still, I'm so much happier having that battery monitor that tells me the status of my car battery, the state of charge, the voltage. I can't believe auto manufacturers don't build that into the car. So that gives me peace of mind. I think all that's left to rule out now is a Ford part. The alternator, the starter motor, a solenoid. I don't know what else it could be. I do know that when I go on my road trip 3 weeks from now, I don't want this thing dying. Anyway, folks, yeah, I'm sorry this video is kind of like cobbled together. I find it very hard to troubleshoot and record at the same time. Hopefully the point of this video is you need to be able to rescue yourself. And if you're considering van life, you need to learn how to fix stuff. I don't know how else to say it. You got to be an active learner type. You're going to find yourself in situations where you need to rescue yourself. And learning how the car works is a first start in that. So the next step here is I am bringing my car to Ford on Tuesday. They're going to check all their stuff. Hopefully not just like blame me. Maybe something needs to be replaced. I'm praying to God it isn't. Just the labor and the diagnostics enough is so expensive. Anyway, thanks for hanging around for this video, folks. Hopefully in the next video I will have a more conclusive status as to the health of my car, and then we can get back on the road again. Alright, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me throughout this endeavor. Peace out, everyone.